As my loyal subscribers probably understand, this is a repost of my video about Miraculous World Paris from over 2 weeks ago. However, it got flagged for copyright, and so I have replaced all of the footage from the special with clips from Season 5. I really hope you understand. I want to thank each and every one of you for the support you showed that video, and I'm sorry to say that it's all gone to waste now because I had to delete it because of the copyright. This is just the best way for me to let you see this video without it getting flagged again. So, enjoy. Hello everyone, and welcome back to a critical retrospective. First things first, how about we talk about that poll I did a few days ago? I suggested between two options on what you guys wanted my next video essay to be about, and a vast majority of you wanted me to talk about Miraculous World Paris, Tales of Shadybug and Noir. And I perfectly understand why. It's incredible. It's exciting, emotional, and everything in between. And it reignited hope in the franchise that I had lost after the Season 5 finale, because yes, Astrid and Co can write good things. The proof is in this special and its explosion in popularity. I was kind of worried that the Miraculous fandom was kind of dying off because Season 5 definitely felt like it had less engagement with it than the previous seasons. But I guess the Miraculous fandom were just waiting for the next big thing, and they've come back in full force for the Reverse special. But why do you suppose that is? What exactly makes Miraculous World Paris such an interesting watch, and what makes people want to come back to it time and time again? Well, I think it comes down to two things. The characters and the story. In my opinion, you can't have good characters if your story isn't interesting, and you can't have a good story if the characters aren't interesting. Thankfully, the characters and the story both work together to tell an incredible narrative. These characters are very intriguing, and I want to know more about them and the world that they live in. And if you create a new set of characters for your world, and your audience is left wanting more of them, I'd say that's a good thing. So let's talk about those characters. Starting with... Betterfly is the good version of Monarch and the Butterfly Miraculous holder in this alternative universe. In the middle of the special, it's revealed that he stole the Butterfly and Peacock Miraculouses from an evil entity known as the Supreme who rules his world. And apparently, just like Hawkmoth, he misused the Miraculouses, and as a result he lost someone close to him. His wife. However, this is where the paths diverge between Monarch and Betterfly. Instead of succumbing to his grief and deciding to hurt other people in order to bring his wife back, Betterfly decided to turn this into a driving force in his life in order to do good by other people to make up for his mistakes. A big theme this special seems to be moral dichotomy. Ladybug and Shadybug are foils to one another, as are Cat Noir and Claw Noir, and you can gain more perspective on your main characters by examining their opposites. And it's the same case with Monarch and Betterfly. Betterfly's heroism, in a way, is a critique on Hawkmoth/Monarch's morality. Their pasts are almost identical, and yet they went down entirely opposite paths. We keep hearing about how the Agreste family was quite happy when Emily was still alive, and so I can only assume that past Gabriel in our world was actually something like inverse Gabriel. They were once exactly the same in terms of moral character, and yet we see that Emily's death affected them in entirely different ways. Betterfly is a version of Gabriel where he didn't let himself be succumbed to evil thoughts. And it seems to be a comment on the idea of free will. No matter how hard your life is, you can always choose to do good for others, to keep them from experiencing the same pain that you're experiencing. To be selfless in a selfish world. I can only imagine that our version of Gabriel, evil Gabriel, constantly tries to rationalize what he's doing in his own head, telling himself that he's not the villain of this story and that everything that he's done has a very good reason for it.
I'm doing it for her, Adrian. For you. For us.
And it's clear that these justifications just aren't right. Gabriel can't say that he's doing all of this for Emily when the other version of himself was able to stay good in spite of his circumstances. This Gabriel also lost his wife, and yet he never lost his convictions. A chilling reminder to Gabriel that he went down the path he went on by choice. His opposite is right there, implicitly telling him that he can't do what he's doing because there's no excuse. Modern media often likes to give their villains a tragic backstory in an attempt to explain their evil actions. Taking a look at why they fell from grace is admittedly very interesting. However, the key word there is explain. not excuse. It doesn't matter if you've got the most overwhelmingly tragic backstory in the world, you can always choose to be better than your past. And Betterfly exemplifies this purposefully and perfectly. Betterfly is a version of Monarch who decided to stop, think, and correct his mistakes. To learn to love again after experiencing such loss. It takes a strong person to do that. And it makes it all the more sad when we see the human parts of Gabriel come to light. Because he does love his son and his wife very much, and he would do anything to bring them all back together again. But it just goes to show that being stuck in the past is actively dangerous if you decide to let it impact other people's lives negatively in order to get what you want. Betterfly understood this and so decided to move past it. And it shows just how good he is. Even when he's backed up against a corner, has no one on his side, and is haunted by the memory of his dead wife, he doesn't stop fighting for what he believes in. Instead of waiting for some hope to come find him, he decides to be that hope for others. And he inspires Ladybug and Cat Noir to keep fighting, even in spite of the fact that Monarch has most of the Miraculouses. And it's this inspiration that gives Ladybug and Cat Noir the courage and ability to talk down their doppelgangers. He inspires people, and in turn allows them to inspire others. By holding on to his beliefs, he's made lives better for the people around him, just as he always wanted to. All because he decided to live for others instead of only focusing on himself and how he felt and all of his troubles. And by never letting go of his compassion and heroism, he has two new allies once Shadybug and Claw Noir are both redeemed. And now with two new allies, Betterfly's wish to defeat the Supreme and gain a better world for him and his friends might finally come true. Another thing that I think is very interesting and something that I like about Betterfly is his interactions with Ladybug and Cat Noir, especially Cat Noir. The real Gabriel is a trash parent, so it's pretty nice to see Adrien actually interact with a good version of his father, especially when he decides to akumatize him in order to save his life, and Cat Noir doesn't know how to respond because akumatization has always been negative in his eyes. Hawkemoth has always used it as a means to an end and has never truly cared about the people he's akumatized, only manipulating them for his own personal gain. But Betterfly here genuinely just wanted to help Cat Noir and save him from being killed by Shadybug, and it reinforces his good nature even more because he did this completely selflessly. This is exemplified even further when he starts breaking down crying at the sight of Ladybug and Cat Noir's world, seeing how beautiful it all is, and explaining that this is what he wants for the people in his world so they won't feel so miserable and alone. The alternate universe Gabriel wants happiness for everybody, whereas our version of Gabriel only wants it for himself and doesn't care how many people he sacrifices to get that goal, which foils to Shadybug and Claw Noir, who both want to change the world but only to fit their own purposes. Speaking of those two, I think it's about time we talk about them, starting with Shadybug is the evil version of Ladybug from the alternative universe and one of the two main antagonists this special, the other being Claw Noir. She's the exact opposite of Ladybug, cruel and selfish and conniving. She and Claw Noir were tasked with getting the Butterfly Miraculous for their superior, the Supreme. The first thing I want to talk about with Shadybug is her menace. Her character design, the music, and the dialogue all paints the perfect picture of just how evil she is. She's very hostile and aggressive, even towards her own partner, which really illustrates that she only cares about herself. And this is explained away towards the end of the special when we learn just how terrible her home life is. We learn that in her universe she has no friends, no loving parents, or anybody who cares about her, and that the Supreme took advantage of her loneliness by handing her a Miraculous, giving her the power that she's never had before. That's why she's so loyal to him. Working for the Supreme gives her a lot of power that she can use to take revenge on her enemies. She says herself all her life has been pain and suffering, and so now she can reflect that pain and suffering onto others so they know how she felt all her life. But that isn't her mindset throughout the whole special. Towards the middle, she and Claw Noir head back to Marinette's house in order to find a clue as to how they ended up in this alternate universe. While ransacking the place, she finds Marinette's diary and decides to read it. She learns about how wonderful Marinette's life is and how everybody cares about her, and then looks at her own life and realizes that hers is the exact opposite. This diary is a very important moment and a turning point for Shadybug's character because it gives her a glimpse into a life that she never really considered. With each turn of the page, Shadybug learns more and more about the life that she wants to live. And eventually, she breaks. She can't accept the way things are in her world anymore. She has to change things for the better, at least for her. And so she reads about the wish, because for some stupid reason Marinette decided to write that in the diary. Now there's finally a way for things to change for her. Now she can finally live the life that Marinette lives, even if it means replacing her.
Why fight to get a better life when I could just switch with someone else's in another world?
She steals Claw Noir's Miraculous and unifies the Ladybug and Black Cat Miraculouses in order to summon Gimme, the Kwame of reality. She tries to make the wish, but the Supreme apparently saw this coming and so set up some kind of defense mechanism preventing her from using the wish. And so the wish doesn't work. And so she transforms back into Shadybug, dejectedly accepting this reality that she has, telling Claw Noir that they have to get the Butterfly Miraculous back from Betterfly because that's all they have left. She starts crying because her whole world has been crumbling around her and she doesn't know how to deal with that. And all Claw Noir can do is try to comfort her. Not only that, but apparently misusing their miraculous powers and using them frequently is destroying them. So Shadybug and Claw Noir are in very real danger by misusing their miraculouses because it draws vital energy from them, energy that they're running out of. And so they don't really have much of a choice but to keep going, because if they don't, they will die, and if they do, at least they can still have the Supreme's loyalty and power in their universe. It's kind of a sunk cost fallacy in a way. She's given so much up in order to be Shadybug, both physically and emotionally, and so she has to keep going, because otherwise she'll have to accept it was all for nothing. It's too late to turn back now. And the best part is, I can definitely understand why she's still Shadybug, even after the revelation about how her life could be so much better if she only made better choices. Remember, she's told us that all her life was pain and suffering. She doesn't know any different to the life that the Supreme has created for her. In a way, she's the opposite of Betterfly. While he still has hope that a better world is possible, she never had the hope to begin with. In her world, she's on top. She's one of the Supreme's top agents, and so joining Betterfly would be throwing all of that away and making life hard for herself. And since her life is terrible anyway, working for the Supreme is her best option. And so, Marinette decides to talk Shadybug out of her despair. She tells her that they truly are mirrors of one another. Marinette was also afraid and hurt, and yet she brought herself out of her despair by choosing to become Ladybug and helping people who were just as mired in it as she was. And that's exactly what Shadybug needs to do. Help foster a sense of community and love in her world, just like Betterfly wanted, and soon everyone will pick up the pieces together. And Shadybug relents, realizing that a better world is possible if she puts the work in with Betterfly and Claw Noir. And she gets a new outfit, because she's a good guy now, and you can't be a good guy looking like that. And while I vastly prefer her villain outfit, I do understand that this outfit definitely symbolizes her being set on the right path. And I think becoming a friend of Ladybug instead of an enemy was the perfect end to her character, both her and Claw Noir. It's like what they said in Ninjago, that one episode in season 8.
The best way to defeat your enemy is to make him your friend.
And I find it really nice that both Shadybug and Claw Noir have been set on the right path and have potential to help a lot of people just like Betterfly wanted them to. And now they're going to work together in order to defeat the Supreme, which, honestly, we need a spin-off series for this. But Asterix said it was going to be too expensive, and so I feel like we should just deal with what we have. But what we have is amazing, so I'm not too bothered about it. Anyway, I feel like I've said everything I wanted to say about Shadybug, so let's move on to her associate. Claw Noir, while not as interesting as Shadybug in my opinion, also has a lot to love about him and a lot of depth to his character that I'd love to explore. If there's one word I could use to describe him, it's unhinged. He clearly enjoys being evil for some reason, but since he is quite similar to Adrien in that both of their mothers passed away, I guess we could equate that to why he's so rude and horrible. Maybe he's just like our version of Gabriel, becoming jaded and hostile by losing somebody close to him. Honestly, it's really interesting how all of the characters are foils to one another in one way or another. It showcases how the characters react to one another's behaviors and how they're influenced by each other. And that makes examining Claw Noir's character easier, because we could just look at our version of Gabriel and what happened when he became Hawkmoth and why. Gabriel became Hawkmoth because he was so upset about losing his wife and was willing to do anything it took to bring her back to life. Claw Noir, as we soon learn, is very much the same. He wants to use the wish when he finds out about it to bring his mother back to life because he can't bear the thought of being without her. And this ties very nicely back to what I was saying earlier about how Monarch's actions aren't justified by his reasons for being evil. Like Monarch, Claw Noir and Shadybug are both hurting innocent people in order to get what they want, and no amount of justification will make this right. But the difference is that, unlike Gabriel, Claw Noir changes his life for the better and learns to live life without his mother. And even though he wanted to use the wish in order to make his life better for just himself when he found out about it, he eventually moves past this. The final fight between Claw Noir and Cat Noir exemplifies this really well and serves to further deepen their characters. Claw Noir says he wants to use Ladybug and Cat Noir's Miraculouses in order to make a wish to bring his mother back to life, which really shocks Cat Noir. He's upset with his father for seemingly moving on and forgetting about the memory of his mother. And this is where Adrien steps in to help him because he's going through the same thing. Claw Noir asks why Adrien never used the wish, to which Adrien says that he did think about using it. However, he decided against doing so because it would mean somebody else's life would be lost, and he wouldn't wish that on anybody. And since they're technically the same person, Adrien's words start to get through to Claw Noir as he starts to see sense. Adrien's let other people into his life and made new friends in order to fill the hole in his heart that his mother left. And Claw Noir can do this as well, if only he chooses to, which he does. And it's really interesting because now the alternate universe Agrest family is kind of perfect. Now the family are all superheroes fighting against evil, and they've both moved on from the hardships in their lives, even though there are guaranteed to be more on the way because of the Supreme. And it's really nice to see Adrien and Gabriel working together in this alternate universe, even if neither of them know it. And it really gives fans a look at a good, loving father for Adrien that we don't really get in the main show. Now that I think about it, these characters are kind of little vignettes to explore what fans actually want to see from the main characters in the actual show. We want to see Gabriel treat his son better, and so here's alternate universe Gabriel, who treats everyone around him with kindness and respect. We want to see Adrien become more of a focus and get more character development, and so here's a version of him that's exactly that. We've wanted to see Marinette get akumatized for years now, and so an evil alternate universe Ladybug is an effective compromise. But I can't get too carried away talking about anyone else. This is about Claw Noir, so let's get back to the point. Claw Noir also has a little bit of depth to him in his Adrien persona, as showcased in the scene in Marinette's bedroom. We learned that misusing the Cat Miraculous is draining his physical health as well as Marinette's, and so they're in life-threatening danger if they don't do something to fix their circumstances. But like we said before, the wish didn't work because the Supreme hijacked it somehow. But this time I want to focus on alternate universe Adrien's reaction. When Shadybug starts crying after realizing how hopeless their situation is, Claw Noir tries to comfort her. This is quite different to how he was characterized earlier in the special, in which he was ruthless and evil, just for the fun of it seemed. And yet here he is, trying to comfort his partner in crime. Something I want to point out is this look he gives Marinette when she's being cruel to Sabine. It's kind of ambiguous what he's trying to communicate here. I'm kind of stuck between two interpretations. Either he's trying to make her act like Marinette in order for them to not blow their cover, or he doesn't want Marinette to be mean to somebody who's so gentle and kind, like his mother probably was. This is really the first time that the Miraculous writers have actually made me stuck between interpretations, and it's honestly the first time a scene has even been up to interpretation. It's great to see that they're not insulting their audience's intelligence by letting them figure things out for themselves. Shadybug and Claw Noir really did wonders for the narrative because their characters are so nuanced and developed, and the writers have really redeemed themselves with regards to writing sympathetic villains after they fumbled with Gabriel. Claw Noir feels like the kind of villain Gabriel was supposed to be. There's not too much inconsistency between his evil actions, evil persona, and the sympathetic moments. And unlike Gabriel, I can actually buy his redemption because it feels earned. It really felt like the whole special was leading towards these two being set on a better path. And it's really heartwarming to see them join forces with Betterfly at the end. Okay, now that we've talked about the characters incorporated into the story, let's talk about how the story Anyway, as I was saying, it's time to examine how the story incorporates these characters. The story does a great job at being engaging to the audience. It starts with Betterfly and alternate universe Alia. Betterfly is about to akumatize Alia before Shadybug and Claw Noir ambush them. The scene does a great job at rising tension because I want the heroes to get out safely before Shadybug and Claw Noir do who knows what to them in order to stop them. And it's the first glimpse that we get of Betterfly and how akumatization works when it's used for the way it was supposed to be, for the greater good. This ties into something I've been wondering about for years. What if the Ladybug and and the Black Cat Miraculouses were used for evil. I mean, it's not too hard to imagine the power of destruction being used for evil purposes, but the Ladybug Miraculous has always seemed unambiguously good. I mean, one of its powers is literally to repair any damage caused by anything terrible, but the power of creation is honestly quite morally ambiguous. You can create anything you want, whether it's good or evil. And we do see Shadybug create some pretty dangerous things this special. Sounds pretty evil to me. And something I didn't really consider about the whole repairing the damage thing is that an evil Ladybug Miraculous holder probably just wouldn't do that. Like, they would choose not to. Because what's the point of repairing any damage if you're the one causing it? So now it's pretty easy to see how the Butterfly, Ladybug, and Cat Miraculouses would be used for the opposite purposes to how we normally see them. So then we get a scene of Gabriel being very upset about his cataclysm wound and suffering from the physical effects of it, but it's honestly kind of boring because we've seen him do this all the time in Season 5. Honestly, this is one of the only things that I actively dislike about the special, and that's Gabriel's involvement. And the problem is that he has any involvement at all. Remember, at the end of Recreation, Lila now holds the Butterfly Miraculous, and while this special does take place before that point, this was released after, and so we were craving new content. And so Gabriel continuing to be the main antagonist even now after 8 years. It's getting old at this point. In my opinion, the end to the Gabriel Agrest saga has been overdue for seasons. It's like the Miraculous team just can't let go. I personally would rather have Shadybug and Claw Noir be the villains the whole time and have Monarch just kind of not be involved. I mean, honestly, when I saw Gabriel sense Shadybug and Claw Noir's negative emotions and plot to akumatize them, I inwardly groaned. The ending of Recreation has given us a new era of Miraculous, so when we see Gabriel up to the same song and dance, I thought to myself,
are we really doing this?
Okay, I think it's time to move on. Can't get too bogged down in the fact that Monarch is here. It's time to talk about the fight between Shadybug, Claw Noir, Cat Noir, Ladybug, and Betterfly. It's very interesting to see the counterparts finally meet face to face and deal with the fallout of seeing a good Butterfly Miraculous holder. The fight is very dynamic and intriguing, especially when Cat Noir used a Cataclysm as a threat to Claw Noir, and Claw Noir just called his bluff and used the Cataclysm on himself to everybody's shock and bewilderment. That was such a crazy moment when I first saw it, and it really hammered home that these villains aren't messing around, unlike some people I know. Gosh, that finale was terrible. I mean, the action scenes in the show have always been pretty good, but this special takes it to the next level, especially considering the fact that Shadybug and Claw Noir can both use their powers indefinitely, which leads to some really long and tense battles. The fight ends with Cat Noir willingly getting akumatized into a superhero, and this is something we've never seen before, so needless to say, it was very interesting to watch. It's a lot of fun seeing the Butterfly Miraculous being used for its intended purpose now. It's kind of a look into what Gabriel could be doing for others if only he stopped thinking about just himself. And as previously stated, he plots to akumatize Shadybug and Claw Noir after sensing their negative emotions. This doesn't work, and this is showcased through a pretty funny scene. We've seen people try to resist akumatization before because they know it won't end well for them, and they don't want to end up turning into supervillains. But Shadybug and Claw Noir are just as scared as those other people, except they don't want to get turned into superheroes. It's really funny. And now because the akumatization doesn't work, we don't see much of Monarch until towards the end, which I'm pretty happy about. I'm sick of seeing that face. So then we move on to the scene in the sewers where Betterfly's backstory is revealed to Ladybug and Cat Noir. Betterfly starts to get a bit emotional because their world is so beautiful to him, and he starts to go on a little bit about what his world is like, which I've already touched on in the Betterfly section of this video, but this is an opportunity to talk about how he inspires Ladybug and Cat Noir in order to keep persevering even though Monarch has all of the Miraculouses. Marinette says that their world isn't perfect either because Monarch has all of the Miraculouses and they're not as powerful as Shadybug and Claw Noir in her eyes, to which Betterfly reassures her by saying that they are more powerful than Shadybug and Claw Noir because those two know nothing about trust, and since Ladybug has a reliable ally in Cat Noir to fall back on, she need not be deterred. It's a really nice message to send to Ladybug and Cat Noir, and it's nice that Adrian has some fatherly advice from someone who actually cares about him for a change, and it really accentuates the goodness of Betterfly because he's able to inspire other people to be the best versions of themselves. And even though the scene is a little bit long, it is cleverly intercut with with scenes of Shadybug reading the diary, so it doesn't really feel that way. Overall, it's a nice little scene, nice character building, and it's a way for us to slow down after the action-packed fight scene we just had. So then we move back to Shadybug reading the diary, which I've already talked about, but something I didn't mention was what happens after the Shadybug breakdown and the Claw Noir comfort scene. Shadybug dejectedly states that no wish will save them and their circumstances, to which Monarch shows up. I guess it does make sense for Monarch to be involved in the final fight between Shadybug and Claw Noir because it makes it distinct to the first fight, but as I've gone on and on about, I'm sick of him being a key player. We've seen the end of Recreation and we know he's not going to win, so why should I care? He's only really there to create illusions of Shadybug and Claw Noir to lure out the heroes, and then just stands at the top of the Eiffel Tower doing nothing. However, the fight isn't really focused on him, so I don't really have to keep whining about it. Furthermore, we get some really good scenes with Shadybug and Claw Noir between their counterparts, and that's all I really care about in the special, because these are the most interesting parts. Plus, this is the part where Shadybug and Claw Noir get redeemed after revealing to their counterparts just how horrible their life is, and so Monarch's involvement isn't too impactful. And at this point in Gabriel's arc, considering just how long it is, it's refreshing to see him just not do that much, because we've seen enough of him already. It was kind of weird in my opinion that at the end they were kind of playing up the fact that he could travel between parallel universes, but thankfully this ending doesn't feel too bad. It's actually really fun to see Ladybug versus Monarch in all these parallel universes, and even if it's short, it's a nice little scene. It's a way to end the special on a pretty fun note and give us one last hurrah for Monarch and not take him too seriously at this point, which I'm all here for. We've seen the writers try to make us take Gabriel seriously as a villain so many times that it's quite nice to see them just lean into the stupidity of it. And the scene only lasted like 2 minutes and Ladybug is so sure that Monarch will never try to travel across parallel universes again. That got a good chuckle out of me. And now the special ends with Ladybug, Shadybug, Cat Noir and Claw Noir saying their goodbyes. It's really lovely to see that Shadybug, Claw Noir and Betterfly entered this universe as enemies, and now they're going back to their own universe as friends, really showcasing just how far our heroes have come, as now they're inspiring other heroes as well. So then at the end of the special, we get a scene with Alia and Marinette talking about how much their friendship means to them, talking about how they couldn't have stopped Shadybug and Claw Noir without each other's help. It's an effective scene to showcase just how much Alia and Marinette's friendship means to the both of them, which is a story point that I'm always happy to see more of. Ever since Marinette revealed her identity to Alia, things have been a lot more interesting between them in terms of storylines, and it makes Alia into a much more interesting character, which the special also showcases. So then we get one last little gag about how tired Marinette and Alia are because they were up all night fighting Shadybug and Claw Noir, and then the special ends. In conclusion, Miraculous World Paris, Tales of Shadybug and Claw Noir is the best piece of Miraculous Ladybug media we have gotten in a long time. All the characters get some kind of meaningful development, which is more than I can say after 5 seasons of the main show, and it introduces some really good new characters. I'm honestly amazed that the people who made this are the same people who made this. This special is a sign of hope for the show and how the writing might be in season 6 and beyond. Honestly, I don't think I've seen a miraculous piece of content that's been so universally beloved since Strike Back in March 2022. And do you know why, writers? It's because the writing is good. It's because the characters are good. It's because the story is good. And it really just shows that what your audience is looking for is for the characters to not be butchered and mangled every 5 seconds. Your audience is screaming for a spin-off with Shadybug and Claw Noir, and that's because the characters that you've created in this special are truly extraordinary. After the terrible finale that was the season 5 finale, I genuinely thought that you guys couldn't write good stories. But now I know that you can. You most certainly can. Sometimes I'll think about how bad episodes like Miracle Queen and Recreation are, but then I'll think about how good this special was, and I'll be reassured. It will make me more content and accepting with the future of the franchise, and reassure me that the show is in good hands. Thank you all so much for watching this video. It was a lot of fun to talk about the Miraculous World Paris special, as I'm quite critical of the show sometimes, and it's really nice to just kind of gush, as you probably understand. Anyway, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I think it's doable, given the fact that 3 videos was enough to generate 500 subscribers, which I'm extremely thankful for. Let's just do it again, okay? What do you say? Help me get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of 2023. It would truly mean a lot to me. My favourite comment was from World of Miraculous 5338, describing how they would rank the episodes in Season 5. Thank you so much for sharing your opinion with me, I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys share your opinions on Miraculous World Paris with me in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you think. This has been a critical retrospective, and I'll see you in the next video essay.